Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Turnstone. More than furniture, we're an experience. Go to myturnstone.com/twist to learn more and receive 10% off your first order. And by Sharefile from Citrix. Secure file transfer built for business. Visit sharefile.com, click on the microphone, and enter Twist for a free 30-day trial.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. This is This Week in Startups. It's our news roundtable edition, and with us today for the first time, Matt Buchanan, who is working at The New Yorker, and Gina Bianchini is with us again from Mightybell. It's going to be a great news roundtable, lots to discuss, including Apple, CISPA, Netflix, Fab raising a bunch of money, Amazon doing their set-top box, LinkedIn crushing it with their content stuff, the Galaxy S4 gets kind of panned, I think, and Exitround being Ashley Madison of startups. Stick with us. It's going to be a great program.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups, our news roundtable edition. I am Jason Calacanis, a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and a broken clock that is right twice in a career. I've had one or two things go well, and God, the other 11 things on the clock, complete failures and burn and torched. But hey, that's entrepreneurship, isn't it? Like, broken clock right twice a day. That's what Mark Cuban told me. He's like, hey, you only need to be right once, and then everybody gives you a disproportionate amount of credit for it.
I think you're going to do it again.
I think I'm going to be, no, it's literally, I had one thing right, I'm going to get the next one right, and that's it, broken clock, and then I got a career. Thank you. I'm done, everybody. We had a great show. Gina Bianchini is with us from Mightybell, and Matt Buchanan from The New Yorker. I'll have them on in just 1 second. And a lot of great news, huh, Kieran? In the news.
There's a lot that happened this week,
A lot that went down this week that we're going to get into. I know Apple had their expectations. They met. CISPA got taken care of. Netflix. A lot of good stuff.
Yep.
What else? Fab.
Well, Fab's reportedly raising a round.
Oh, God, and I missed that one.
And you missed that
That's
one?
my
I know.
anti-portfolio. Killing me. Hey, let me take a pause for the cause. I have a bunch of My Turnstone furniture here at inside.com and This Weekend and launch whatever, and we love it. There's like IKEA, which is like the stuff that's going to break and people are not going to be stoked about. And then there's like multi-$1,000 workstations that your VCs are going to kill you if you waste their money on. And then right in between those two are the beautiful My Turnstone desks. And we have them now. And you can get yourself into these for, I don't know what they cost exactly, but it's like, I think it's under $1,000, well under $1,000 per workstation. And we did it for 50 people here. And everybody is totally stoked. People love to have a beautiful environment. These desks are gorgeous. And it sets a great tone. People came in like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm in a professional environment. They love it. Here, take a look at my desktop. You can see these gorgeous desks with like the couches built in, and we got that. And, the monitors floating, all that kind of good stuff.
We have those taller desks also.
We have the taller desks, so people are doing that stand-up at the taller desk thing now. And it's just gorgeous, and it just sets this tone of like, wow, we're superior than everybody else, we're going to win. That's what I think. I think when you have that kind of stuff, it just makes everybody feel like you're a winner already. So go ahead and go to My Turnstone and /twist, myturnstone.com/twist, and you get 10% off your first order. And 10%, like I know you see like software people give you 50% off, whatever, but they're selling virtual goods, like digital. 10% off is actually pretty meaningful when you're buying desks. So thank you to My Turnstone for giving that discount to our listeners and our listeners only. myturnstone.com/twist. I was like, hey, if you're going to advertise and we're going to do this, you got to give a discount. And they're like, we don't discount. I was like, come on. For my people, give them a discount. And hey, if you can't afford it yet, that's okay. Raise some angel money and you will. But go ahead and thank @MyTurnstone on your Twitter handle. Gina Bianchini is here. Good to hear you, Gina. Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. You're becoming quite a favorite of the fans of the show. I see people interacting with you on Twitter now, and like very, very people like Gina.
She's smart.
She's a smart cookie. And she's also honest.
That too.
She's got the honesty gene, which always goes well. How's everything going at Mightybell?
It's going great.
Yeah.
So since the last time I talked to you, we're powering all the lean-in circles and communities of smaller groups of friends. So it's going great. I cannot complain.
And the you've sort of you started with a little bit of learning and now just straight up community. Is that the evolution?
It's actually both. So what we learned is, as you think about what people want as they're learning, they want community. They want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And then they'll go into smaller groups of friends or people who are becoming friends around education topics, skill development, but also, fun things like cooking and home design and travel.
Awesome. Hey, everybody check out Mightybell. It's really beautifully designed product. If you want to see actually design done well, it's really great. You got some good UX people there, obviously, or UX and design. Yeah.
We try.
It's interesting. It's like today, I think like the design of the product is it's so much more important now, isn't it, Gina, than it used to be?
Absolutely. And it's finding that balance because, you can create something that's beautiful, but if people don't feel like they can sit on the furniture and it's more like a museum as opposed to something that they can also message and be social on, it's that magic is really capturing lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. And with us also for the first time today, Matt Buchanan. How are you doing, Matt?
Hey, how's it going?
And now you're at the New Yorker. The New Yorker has like a tech blog now. Is that correct?
Yep. So we launched 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we've got a Tech and Science Hub, and then we've got a blog within that. So that way we have lots of historical magazine content, and we have stuff like photo of the day and a cartoon of the week. And then we've got the fresh stuff coming in through the blog.
And so where would I sort of put this in between like an Engadget and a TechCrunch and I don't know, what's the big science? Are there any good
popular science?
Scientific American. There's a lot of stuff at Scientific American, and then you've got National Geographic also has a lot of science blogs.
Yeah, Wired is now the science magazine. It's like not really about the tech community as much as science now, I think, because science is so driven by tech now.
Well, and it's just more thoughtful. That's the approach.
Is this a big shift over there at the New Yorker, Matt, to do more blogging in short form?
Well, we're not everything we're doing is super short. I think the average word count for stuff that I've been running, so we're usually doing 2 or 3 pieces a day, and they're usually around 1,000 words, some are more. We had on launch day, we had a 4,000 word piece about Bitcoin from Maria Bastillos. So it's not necessarily short, and we haven't really run anything under 600 words, I don't think, on the tech side. But there is a shift in a sense of, there's a more concerted effort to sort of think about how the New Yorker should look and feel and be online. So there is that kind of shift happening. Interesting.
Yeah. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is a little bit of a shift here. It reminds me when the New York Times did Bits, or the New York Times did, like Off the Dribble was their blog, kind of a little more opinion-y kind of about basketball. So everybody check out newyorker.com/tech is, I think, the best way to get to it. Right, Matt?
Yep. That'll give you everything.
All right. First story, go.
All right, so this week Apple came out with its quarterly report. It met expectations of Wall Street and, fairly impressive, $43.6 billion in revenue, $9.5 billion in profit. That's $4.4 billion higher than the second quarter of 2012. But the margins are down, right? The iPad mini is priced very aggressively, as we know. So instead of about $12.30 a share as they had last year at this time, it's only about $10 earnings per share. And the gross margin, as I mentioned, has gone down. It used to be 47.4%, and now it's 37.5%.
Right. Well, we all predicted that would happen. Keep going.
Right. They sold 37.4 million iPhones. That's about 2 million more than a year ago. 19.1 million iPads versus 11.8 million a year ago. Now, Tim Cook said on the call that they're looking at new product categories, but he didn't want to give a time frame. He did tease, and I quote, some amazing new hardware, software, and services that we can't wait to introduce in the fall and into 2014. And of course, as people know, the company's market cap peaked last fall at about $658 billion, and it's currently around $384 billion. That's the significant value loss in the last.
So, Gina, is your prediction that we're going to have the downward slide of Apple now, or that they might have 1 or 2 pops with this watch and this TV coming out? Because that's clearly what he's referencing is there's going to be a watch that tethers to your iPhone and gives you updates there. Because the alert system obviously is pretty cool, but it's kind of sucks to take your phone out of your pocket constantly. So are we on a downward trend, Gina? And do you think the watch and the TV are must-buy products for Apple enthusiasts?
It's interesting. I think it's been a little while since we've had must-buy products from Apple in the sense of we're seeing a lot of incremental innovation right now, but it's not an iPad.
Right.
It's not the iPhone over the iPad.
Right.
And at the same point in time, I do think that the hand-wringing over Apple and the fact that, people are sitting there saying, what has happened? It's like headlines that are catastrophe. This is not a catastrophe. This is the natural course of business and a natural course of innovation at an innovation company is that you're going to have these moments of pops. You're going to have these moments of incremental development. And I think they are absolutely getting their bearings following, a decade of just amazing product innovation. So yeah. Maybe I'm an apologist, but I think everybody's being like, when you think about a $300 billion decrease in market value, it seems a little harsh relative to very solid, very good results.
And the watch and the TV, are you a buyer? Do you think those will be transformative products, or do you think they might actually, one of those might be a dud? Handicap those for us, Gina.
I mean, I think with respect to Apple TV, it's a matter of time. I think it's going to be a fantastic product. But again, I don't think an Apple TV is an iPhone. I don't think an Apple TV is an iPad. And I think that from a watch perspective, it makes sense just because you're going to have a smaller and smaller form factor. But I'm not sure that it's going to be, from a functionality perspective, just that much more revolutionary than you've seen with an iPhone or an iPad. And I don't think that that's necessarily any fault of Apple's alone. I think we're just seeing sort of this period of incremental innovation over absolute disruptive technologies.
Kind of hard acts to follow, I think, the iPad and the iPhone. Matt, what is your take on Apple and the, sort of knee-jerk reaction that, with Steve Jobs' passing and then, the earnings and the market cap and the percentage of profitability going down? Is this an overreaction, and does Apple have the best ahead, or is it the downward slide?
Well, I think it's in part an overreaction, but what people are betting on in the market essentially is that Apple has transitioned from a super fast growing company to only a sort of moderately quick growing company. But progress is incremental. If you look at innovation, that it's typically an incremental process. You wouldn't have the iPad without the iPhone. A lot of what went into the iPhone went into the iPad. Or even if you look across Apple over the last, let's say, 12 years, we had the iPod in 2001. It took 6 years to get to an iPhone from there, and then 3 years later we had an iPad. So they've actually sort of shrunk the amount of time between major product categories, and in some sense, I feel like people have been impatient. It's only been we've only really had tablets around for 3 years, in sort of a mass way, if you think about it. So there's, and even when you're looking at sort of the broader breakthroughs in iPhones, it's all tends to be very iterative because you can't go from step A to step C without a B in between,
Yeah, I think the iPhone is kind of the story here. The fact that they've only sold 2 million more iPhones this quarter compared to a year ago, it's like, I think that
market saturation. Yeah. I mean, you have I'm trying to remember who wrote it, but when you look, the high end of the market is mostly filled out now, and so what's left to be sold to is largely the bottom third of the market, and for that, it's going to be harder to get an iPhone in those people's hands because everybody else, we've sort of passed the tipping point of smartphones and feature phones, at least in this country, where 50% of the people now, if you're buying a phone, have long had smartphones and not feature phones.
I have to say, I saw the Firefox phone this week, and that was a $119 or $149 smartphone. And for the first time, I started to think, wow, maybe Firefox is onto something here because Android is being locked down at such a quicker and quicker pace by Google. They can't be pleased with what Facebook did with the...
Well, they won't say it publicly.
They won't say it publicly, but, taking over the operating system level of, which obviously Apple has constraints against. You can't take over the home screen, and you're not going to be able to have your app run across every other app, but you can do that kind of stuff on Android. But now they're starting to lock it down. You have to have the Google Play Store, and I think actually this $99 eventual phone from Firefox could be a huge winner, or an Amazon $99 phone to fill out the bottom of the market. And there's been discussions of Apple coming out with a not $99, but a much cheaper iPhone for everybody else, which I think is what's going to happen in the fall. We'll see the watch.
Somebody had shown off a shell. Somebody had shown off. There was I don't know how credibly it was sort of assessed, but there was a plastic shell that had kind of made its way around. It sort of looked like if you had crossed an iPhone 3GS with an iPhone 5. So.
Yeah, it's a really cheap looking, and it will do iOS. So, it's the iPhone topping out and the margin going away, and now the same thing with iPads and Android becoming an actual viable operating system and good.
And Samsung just selling more phones, frankly.
Yeah, Samsung is crushing it. So I think Apple does have some problems here. I am really interested in the watch.
You would wear it.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm interested in the watch. Because I wear the Nike band, and when I press the button and I see fuel, I'm like, why can't I get an alert here? Why doesn't the Nike just have a little bit bigger of a LED here? And why doesn't it show me my phone alerts? So if I'm in a meeting, it just vibrates on my wrist. I turn it into. I'd pay $200 or $300 for that, right? I mean, you pay for that, right, Matt?
Right.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, if they're sort of, and you figure an Apple Watch, if they're going to do one, would offer value sort of above and beyond that. So of course it would do, with their existing partnership with Nike, you can imagine it would have that kind of capability, plus the sort of phone notification stuff. Otherwise, I don't think it would make much sense for them. I mean, Apple does have sort of remarkable restraint in not releasing things that don't make much sense. So I feel like a watch would have to have a real reason to exist for them to.
Other than alerts. Gina, you'd buy the watch the first day, right, Gina?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like watch.
I mean, I think the whole idea that you are going to be able to not only keep up with notifications without having to pull out your device, but that you can also track a number of things, I think that is going to get smaller and smaller. And those little tiny moments of reminders, I think actually could be really cool and open up a whole nother quantified self kind of set of applications that could be very, very interesting.
It's also going to be very interesting because with that, you can just basically press it and start recording from your wrist video or recording. That's my big question is, does it have a camera? Does it have a microphone? Because if it has a camera and a microphone, and then I press the button here and I just talk into it, or I flip my wrist up like I'm doing here on the video, like looking at your veins for people who are, on the treadmill right now. But if I flip it like that and I can do a video conference, or I can, hit record, I mean, that starts to feel really interesting to me as a new way of doing video conferencing, a new way of recording, covertly recording.
More interesting than Google Glass?
Yeah, I think Google Glass is a bust for like 3, 4, 5 years. I think that it's not going to, it's way too early. The thing is too heavy on your head.
You've tried them on?
I haven't tried them on, but I mean, I've held them, and I'm just like, there's no way I'm wearing those for any extended period of time. And then the douchey factor is just off the charts. Like, I mean,
super douchey.
It's like, can you imagine,
really
can you imagine you go on a date with somebody and you have Google glasses on or something, or like?
Well, there's that picture of Sergey when he was on the subway in New York, and he's just sitting there with his glasses on. It looks so
douchey,
creepy.
It's really it's like beyond creepy. I mean, that's like, it's almost. I feel like that was an April Fool's joke.
It wasn't.
That wasn't, right? Like, it almost would have been better as an April Fool's joke. Like, hey, we're going to make glasses that record everything you do. And it's like, well, that's really creepy, and I don't want to live in that world. And it's like, yeah, we're going to force that world on everybody. Like, this is where the Luddites are going to go off the charts, like, with this one. Because it's unlike the smartphone, which, like, when somebody takes out their smartphone, you can say, like, hey, don't take pictures or whatever. But with this, I mean, how do you police it?
There will be no more privacy.
Ugh. You want to live in a world with Google Glass, Matt?
I think we're going to live in a world with Google Glass. It almost.
Well, obviously it's going to come, but do you want to live in that world, Matt?
I think we'll figure out norms for these things as they happen. There's sort of a process of adapting to any new technology, and we'll sort of figure out the way we live with this one. I mean, that's part of the reason Google is handing it out to. People at Google, they're doing the Explorers thing because they don't quite know what the norms and mores of this technology should be, and like how we'll really use it. Because even the people I've talked to that have had it, like different people use it in different ways. Some people with it refuse to wear it out in public. Some will only wear it for a couple hours a day, but then you have some people who wear it basically 24/7. So it's something we'll figure out, I think. It'll take some time, perhaps. I mean, you can even think of like the beginnings of cell phone and like that kind of figuring out what's proper cell phone etiquette. In some ways, we're still dealing with that. But eventually, we've come to sort of a more or less accepted set of boundaries and rules for using your cell phone. This is obviously a little bit different, and recording is sort of a different thing. But some other people are kind of forcing this issue. There was that camera at South by Southwest, Mimoto, that $200 camera that you clip on your shirt. And that guy definitely believed that that public is sort of the default option now. If you're out on a cafe in public, you assume you're going to be in the background of somebody's Instagram photos or that kind of thing. So we're moving in that direction. The question is sort of how far we'll be able to move in that direction.
Yeah, you want to live in that world, Gina? You want to live in that like everything's recorded world, or do you think like this? We adjust to everything that actually holds up in the face of this, or is this the breaking point? Because we have adapted to this.
People freaked out about writing. People freaked out about writing when it was first developed, that it would erode memories and make everybody less smart.
Which was that?
Writing.
Writing. Yeah.
Writing as a technology that freaked people out, and when it was first sort of invented. So we have been going through this for thousands of years.
You're taking conventional wisdom, Matt.
Is that from tablets? Like, as in, I mean, we recorded on tablets that people were bummed about writing?
You actually had like
what era is this?
Like Greek philosopher era. I think it was Socrates that was like super against writing, actually, because he found it weakened memory. Because before writing, obviously an oral culture existed, and things were sort of passed down orally, and so there was sort of a concern about largely how it would affect the way we remember things, and that it would degrade memory.
Okay. So, but if just because that is the sometimes prevailing wisdom changes, right? So the prevailing wisdom has been we adapt, but isn't there this could be the point at which I think like it is so invasive that it breaks. Gina, do you want to, I'll ask that question one more time.
Yeah,
do you want to live in this world or not? If you got to pick, if you were like Gina, God of the universe, you get to pick if the Earth has Google Glass or not, what do you pick?
I think that it will happen in some form. I do think that there is both I think it's underappreciated and underreported just how scary we've made a lot of technology. Yes, there is the default to public, but at the same point in time, people increasingly are hesitant about using new technologies because they don't know what's going to get shared. And I do think that there is absolutely a need and a desire for people to be able to have smaller private spaces. You're seeing this, whether it's, certainly what we see on Mightybell, what
and
we
Path,
see with Path, exactly. And so I think you're going to see, Nextdoor would be another example. I think you're going to see a balance between the public and the private, and clarity around that I think is going to be very important. I also think that there is, having people pull out their cell phones and everybody's looking at feeds when you're actually, and you're taking pictures and documenting what you're doing as opposed to actually doing it. I appreciate that is an evolving cultural norm. At the same point in time, I think that, when you're looking at the desire to learn, to have to develop expertise, the research is pretty clear on this, that kind of hyper-distracted behavior does not actually lead to good outcomes.
I agree with you. I'm
the
getting
idea
really
that you're going
annoyed
to have
by that.
something, the idea, I think I agree with Matt that it's, norms are going to evolve. And I think that the definition of public behavior and private behavior is going to get clearer. At the same point in time, I think we're still at a point where, these norms are fuzzy, but then you see new technologies develop like Snapchat, which, is all about privacy. And how do you actually take the same kind of things that we do in public and turn them into much more private moments?
So is it an awareness of state that bothers you with Google Glass? Because theoretically, I could walk around with my phone and record 24/7 and just sort of hold it up.
Yeah, it's a covert nature. Absolutely, Matt. It's a covert nature of it. And I think that the norm has to be that when you have those glasses on, there is a red light whenever the thing is turned on. Not when it's recording, but when in use, a light goes on. So if I'm talking to you and you're surfing the web or doing email, like an orange light should go on, showing me that you're distracted and insulting me with your behavior. Then it should go red when you're recording. And that should be physically in the device. Just like on your laptop, you can't take screenshots or turn that camera on without the green light going on. But I think, this is my prediction, that this is a tipping point where the belief that like we actually get used to these and develop new social norms, I think this is the one where we don't. I think this is the one where people are like, just take those fucking things off. Sorry,
well, that's the norm. Well, that'll be the norm then. You ask people to take them off.
No, I know, but
like
people will, if you take out your phone and you start acting like, a douche at the table and you're checking your email and doing stuff, people are just like, okay, he's a douche. But I think this is going to be the one where people like actually call you out on and be like, you know what? I don't want to be friends with you anymore because you got those fucking Google glasses on all the time. That's $20. And I just can't deal with it anymore. And like relationships will break up over Google Glass and friendships will be broken because it's so...
People will go insane like Josh Harris did.
Exactly. I think it's like a we live in public type phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think this is, and listen, I want them. I think like for an emergency medical technician to have them on and be recording what's happening and the triage nurse at the hospital to see the wounds and get everything prepared. Like this is brilliant. For military, they've already got them. Like, so there's tons of applications. I just think like, I went to dinner the other night and the greatest thing happened. I don't know if you guys have had this happen, but you start your dinner and everybody stacks their cell phones in the middle of the table. First person to go for their phone pays for dinner. You do this with like 6 people in Silicon Valley, people get like 20 minutes in and they're just like, F it, I'm paying for dinner, but I need to check something on my phone.
Don't they have 2 phones?
Well, I have 2 phones, and I go to the bathroom and then check. So
I was going to say.
yeah, exactly. All right, when
that.
we get back from the commercial break, we're going to talk about Amazon and Netflix and the changing streaming and video and movie industry and all that kind of good stuff. And let me just take a moment and pause for the cause and thank our friends over at Sharefile by Citrix. Sharefile is designed for business. You can share and send files of almost any size securely. Access your files from a computer or a mobile device. And we use it here. When we, let me pull it up on my screen here. Here we go. Boom, boom. We have all the folders for all of our different clients at This Week in Startups. They upload their audio files. They upload their video files. And we know when they're uploading a file because we get alerts and we can track all this stuff. I mean, this is industrial strength file sharing and auditing. So we can see like, hey, these users can read only. They can upload. They can delete, et cetera, et cetera. Great stuff. Request files to upload to a specific folder. Email alerts when somebody uploads or downloads and share large video clips. No credit card required, so go to sharefile.com and click the radio microphone button. Go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone button, use the promo code TWIST, no credit card required, 30-day free trial, and you'll gain access to the TWIST Club where you can get the top 10 questions answered episode, which is exclusively available on Sharefile. Here's how you do it. You get on Sharefile, click the radio microphone button, use TWIST as your code. Now when you have your membership, you sign up, you request a file, and you send that request a file link to sharefile@launch.co, sharefile@launch.co, and we send you the file, and then magically appears in your Sharefile. Everybody take a moment and thank @Sharefile by @Citrix on their Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Rise, Friendster,
and just
6 Degrees,
just for those who are watching
Snapchat.
today,
Yep.
we did include a quote from Gina's interview that she did with you last year in that top 10 moments.
Oh, really? Do you remember what the question was I asked? It's probably a brilliant question.
I'll let people
go
it
get
out.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
That means you don't know. All right.
Oh, I do know. I'm the one who chose that clip.
Oh, did you? Okay, all right. Well, everybody can go to sharefile.com. Let's do the next story.
All right. Well, let's talk about Netflix.
Okay.
Because that's kind of a moment in time here. Netflix has surpassed HBO in terms of domestic subscribers. They have 29.17 million as of Q1, and HBO finished Q4 with 28.7 million. So we're not talking more than about 400,000 difference here, but it's still symbolic. And the interesting thing, of course, is that Netflix is also hitting $1 billion in revenue for the first time. That's up from up 130.2 million from last year. They're doing a bunch of new series, as we know, House of Cards, Hemlock Grove, and their shares are up as a result. So when will online broadcasting take over traditional forms of cable and on satellite. Are we here?
And weren't they going out of business just 5 minutes ago, and their stock was like $4
Well, there was that
a
whole
share?
Quickster thing, right?
The
that
Quickster debacle.
which tanked the stock for a while.
See, you don't even remember that. Go ahead, Matt.
What was Netflix's profit this quarter on all that revenue? What was their profit?
$2.7 million. That's
Well,
not big.
what's Amazon's profit in 10 years? Like $8?
They've been public for almost 15 years.
What's that?
Amazon's been public since.
No. What's their profit?
Other profit.
Yeah, obviously some people are building market share. So I don't think that Netflix is in the profit game right now. But Gina, what do you think? Are you think we're at a tipping point right now? You watching these original series at all?
I am. I think that what's so interesting to me is how your point about Quickster, we're moving from the distribution being, you see the same trend over and over again, which is it goes from the distribution is the innovation. So we're a streaming company. And then as soon as you actually have, you have competition, you have adoption, it moves to content really being the differentiator more than anything else. And so I think the move to original content, I think the investment in content, you're seeing it kind of across the board, and now you're actually not just competing with cable companies. If you're a cable company or a streaming company, you're just not just competing with streaming if you're a streaming company, but you're competing with people's time. And I think that that's actually, when you look just at the macro picture for all of us, like all startups, all entrepreneurs, the number of things that we are competing with for people's time is, it really does create a game of three-dimensional chess.
Yeah, it's like everybody's talking about this, House of Cards or whatever. Then you have all the YouTube series, right, that have been funded, and now I guess YouTube's doing less funding. So you have YouTube doing less. Now you have Amazon. Jeff Bezos was saying, we'll get to that in a minute, that he wants to do more original funding, and he's got a bunch of things under development.
Yep. And they're testing all these pilots with, seeing what people are actually watching. And then they'll decide what goes into production.
Right. It just seems like the production process and the ability to pilot and test, that really plays to the strengths of internet companies. So if they put up 10 pilots and, they see people cancel after 30 minutes of the 50-minute episode, and then this other one, they get to 50 minutes, the retention rate.
Right.
If they just say at the bottom, would you like to see another episode, yes or no, or how would you rate this? That's just infinitely more scientific and real than what networks seem to do and the network suits seem to do. Matt, what do you think? Are we at a tipping point where Netflix and Amazon are going to displace, or compete equally on equal footing with the HBOs and AMCs of the world?
Well, the thing about the HBOs and AMCs of the world is you're not buying them separately, right? You're not just buying AMC and you're not just buying HBO. When you're getting HBO, it's part of a big cable package, right? So that's sort of the major difference. And when you've got cable, you have things like live sports, which is a big issue so far for streaming media. That's one of cable's biggest sort of advantages is if you're into sports, you really can't get away with cutting the cable. You can fill some of those holes, but it's definitely more difficult. And the money thing kind of matters to an extent because HBO I think is fairly profitable, despite the enormous production costs of something like Game of Thrones, which is terribly expensive for them. Each episode is millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think we're a ways away. It also sort of so some people I don't have cable, but I have sort of developed coping mechanisms for being able to watch certain things live. So,
all right, we'll take us through that. What do you, when you want to watch a live sporting event, do you do what I had one of my people at Inside.com do, where they were on a Russian site that was streaming the Knicks playoff game? And I came into the desk, I was like, "Are you watching the game at work?" And it's but the person is such a high performer, and they were multitasking, and I'm a Knicks fan, so I let it go. Normally I fire somebody for that. That's just really, but I was well, it is the Knicks and it is the playoffs and this person's a high performer. So I was yeah, maybe watching sports at work is not a great idea, but it was after 7 or something. Anyway, he was watching off one of these Russian streaming sites. You can get streamed live any sporting event. Nobody knows this, but if you go on Twitter, here's how you do it. Because I was how do you get those links? Because they're not going to be in a Google search.
Of course not.
So all you do is go on Twitter and you type Knicks,
live stream?
Pacers live stream, or live or whatever, and there's zillions of Russian sites, and you have to get through like 7 pop-ups to see the stuff. So like they really pound you with pop-ups, and like, but you eventually get to the content, and it's not HD, it's like, you know, SD or whatever, but you can watch the game. What do you do? How do you steal? Matt, explain how you steal.
Well, typically what I'll do, because I'm in New York City, when I wanted to watch Mad Men Live, because half the fun of watching Mad Men Live is being on Twitter while it's happening, is a lot of bars in Brooklyn in particular will screen or sort of show the television show while it's on. So you can go to a bar and watch Game of Thrones and Mad Men. So that's usually what I'll do with something I want to watch live, is basically it becomes a public performance again. And, you know, it's free, and the only expectation is that you buy a drink or something to eat. So,
and you got to do that anyway.
Communal experience. Yeah, and it makes it a communal experience. So you're watching it with your friends, and then your friends that aren't there, you're probably tweeting at. So that's because I think that's the one like real value of live television is when it's a communal experience like that, and you see that with the Academy Awards or even with last week in Boston, right? Like it was Twitter became this sort of big communal thing centered around this, but largely like otherwise it doesn't really matter when you watch Mad Men or Justified or whatever, because of how sort of disaggregated things are. Like I've tore through all of Justified on Amazon Prime, and it didn't really matter. I wasn't watching it live.
Yeah, and you know what the other interesting thing is? So many people are sharing accounts now too. So they're all sharing their net. All these young people are sharing.
Right.
You're sharing your Netflix account, Matt. You share your Hulu.
I'm not sharing mine. My roommate has Hulu, which is plugged into my Apple TV.
Yeah.
So. And then he uses my Netflix.
And you know what the thing about the news, Gina, is like with the news, when you were watching the Boston stuff, if you were watching it, it's like Twitter is the best place to do it. The Twitter hashtag is the best place to follow the news. And people are putting the clips up in real time. So you don't actually like, I put on CNN and I was like, oh my God, CNN is so frustrating because I just want the clips that matter. And the clips that matter are ripped and stolen to YouTube in real time, and they're put onto Twitter.
Or Vine.
What's that?
Or Vine.
Or Vine. Well, yeah, but 7 seconds not enough. But yeah, there's some Vine of the actual like bombings.
Yeah.
But the real thing is people are, I don't know who these people are, but people are ripping what happened on the news, which is it takes a little bit of work. Putting it up on YouTube, you can find those stolen clips like before CNN puts it on their own channel by just doing the search on the hashtag. And then you don't need to watch anything because it's a better experience. You're getting chunks.
Well,
Gina,
it's not being repeated over and over again like it is on CNN.
What did you think of the sort of live news flow on Twitter during this?
I was struck by, first of all, the Twitter information just felt better. I mean, yes, there was absolutely misreporting and things going off in different directions. But I thought that Twitter, in terms of staying up to date, and it was interesting, the people I follow started pointing to the right people to follow all in real time, and then I just started following them, and then I basically was able to keep up with everything going on. And then the thing I thought was so interesting is that you went from, on Twitter, it had one set of information, and then you turn on CNN, or I'd turn on CNN, and it was another set of information that wasn't nearly that interesting, because they were essentially waiting around. And then I walked by the newspaper from the day before and just thinking about, wow, that's exactly what's happening here. So you have, real-time news and events. I also particularly appreciated all of the conspiracy theories that were going on even before we knew.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite conspiracy?
By far the anonymous picture analysis that was happening, even though they didn't ever get the right guys. But
right.
that whole process was fascinating to me. And this sense of we're training people in a good way to feel like they can actually help.
Yeah,
it was like a way for them to help.
In fairness, Reddit got it right I looked at some of the Reddit and the 4chan stuff. They're like, here are all the people with backpacks.
Right.
And it was like,
here
okay.
Here are all the people looking away.
Right.
Here are all the people that don't seem to be paying attention to what's going on. And then when you actually saw the suspects.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
It was like, wait a second, those look a lot like the other people. They were different people, but
right.
It was definitely in that sense of we can all.
Well, Reddit was using incorrect source video,
but also be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment that this is changing.
Yeah, Matt, what did you think?
Well, they started with the incorrect source video because the video that identified those two actually I think was from a Lord and Taylor security camera.
Right.
And they definitely, and there was basically the huge witch hunt for the Brown student that ended up. It turned out they found his body in the river a couple of days ago. So there's really like a real danger to that because even though they were doing all this analysis, they were analyzing, it turns out, the wrong piece of data in the first place.
Yeah, but the thing is, I agree with you, Matt, but the thing is, if you're, I think it's just the consumers have to understand that a Reddit investigation is an investigation by Reddit in real time, and like, you don't just report it as fact. I mean, I think consumers will get this.
I mean, totally. I think there should be a caution to it. It's why, I mean, I'm very opposed, for instance, to a correction mechanism on Twitter because it is so real time. But you do have this danger, particularly with Reddit is sort of more organized in terms of a community. Like Twitter is fairly disparate. It doesn't really sort of lend itself to kind of a mob thing in the same way because people are not directed within like, oh, we're part of the Fine Boston Bomber subreddit. So it's like loosely organized at the same time it's distributed. And so it's much easier to point a mob of people in one direction or another. And I mean, fortunately, I think we've learned enough from Reddit and sort of the internet before to like people were generally okay about not kind of, jumping out as a mob toward people. But then you do look at like this kid's Facebook page that his family put up. This kid has been missing. It turns out he's dead. And you have like hundreds of people online like defacing a Facebook page his family put up because they were just looking for their son to come home. So like there can be like real consequences with real people hurt. And while we're getting better about it, like that still is a real possibility.
My favorite person to follow, I think Gina's point about the Twitter tells you who to follow because your friends tell you like, hey, follow Boston Police Scanner or follow Boston. Right. Matthew Keys, who is who got fired by Reuters this week. This kid's my favorite. I love this guy. I may hire this guy. He is a machine when it comes to tweeting stuff in real time, and he was doing like 5 tweets a minute. I mean, this person is like, what's that fancy word they use at the New Yorker, Matt? Like predator human? How do you pronounce that? Like when somebody is
which one? Like
predator human, like you're more than human.
Preternatural, yeah.
Preternatural?
Preternatural?
Yeah.
Preternaturally.
He's preternaturally good at like processing social media. He's so good that Reuters fired him because he was like, well, I think they were looking for a reason to fire this kid.
There were some issues there already.
Well, he did at the previous job, reportedly, allegedly, whatever, give the logins to anonymous. But who's perfect in this world? Like, who doesn't give the accreditation? I mean, Matt's given anonymous all the logins to all the New Yorker websites, right, Matt?
I've never dealt with anonymous, actually.
What do you think of this kid, Matt?
They're fun to watch.
What do you think of this kid, Matt Keys? You're up on this because you're a media guy.
I mean, I'm up on it, but I don't know him, so I would feel... I'd like not knowing him, like I would rather not really offer an assessment. Like I am afraid that whatever happens to him will be sort of disproportionate to what he actually did, as we've seen with so-called computer crime. I mean, because we saw that to some extent, like with Aaron Swartz, right? Like they were trying to throw the book at him.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. They treat everybody like they're a Russian mafia.
Stealing
10,000 credit cards and doing, and it's like the kid was just defacing a website. It's like somebody spray painting something, like it's a slap in the wrist kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, 40 years in jail. I think Aaron kills himself.
So I'm definitely afraid of that instance for Matthew Keys, that he would be sort of hit with a punishment not at all proportionate to what he may have done or like allegedly had done. Because like at worst, a site was sort of defaced for a small amount of time, which isn't the biggest deal in the world. So
yeah, it's kind of a bummer that we're sort of painting with a wide brush here. All right, let's move on to the Amazon story.
All right, so
what the hell's going on over there?
It's been reported, it's not been confirmed yet, that Amazon is going to be doing its own set-top box.
I can confirm it. I have it. Jeff Bezos sent me one. It's confirmed.
The competitors, of course, we know are Roku, Apple TV, Boxee, PlayStation, Xbox. You'll, of course, be able to access Amazon videos. It's not clear yet what kind of competing services may or may not be available on there. Would they allow you to use Hulu or Netflix?
Sure, why not? They do on their Kindle Fire.
On the Kindle Fire, sure. Yeah, that's been pointed out.
Of course they will.
And, the Amazon results came out this week as well. They had net sales of about 16 billion. That's up about 22% year over year. And as we know, they're doing these pilot TV shows and looking at the data to decide which ones to greenlight. So are you going to buy the set-top box if it hasn't been given to you?
I'm going to get it for free with my Amazon Prime subscription. Obviously, they're going to give this for free to anybody who has Amazon Prime. And is that not totally clear to anybody? I mean, of course, Amazon Prime is going to go to $119 or something from $99, and it will come with the set-top box.
Still $79.
Is it still $79? Okay, so
$79. Yeah. I just got my notification to renew.
How many? I asked this on the launch ticker. How many millions of people have Amazon Prime now? Because did they release that number?
I looked it, but I didn't see anything.
That's a mad takeover plan they got there. So this is obvious. I mean, they're obviously going to do this. They're obviously going to give it away for free, and.
I think they'll sell it at cost. I don't think it'll be free.
What does that cost? $50 or something? It's gonna cost
maybe
nothing.
50, maybe 100. It'll definitely be 100 or less. Given, I would guess they would try to undercut like Roku. So you're probably talking 79 or less.
Yeah.
So cheap.
Yeah.
Though.
So you're an Amazon Prime member, Matt?
Of course. I wish I could like buy everything from Amazon Prime.
Oh, you have. What do you have on Subscribe and Save? You got your deodorant, your razors on Subscribe and Save? Coffee, what?
No, I wouldn't get coffee from Amazon. It's too old. Yeah. So I have like granola. I have like basic staple food stuff like peanut butter.
On Subscribe and Save.
Yeah, I eat a crap load of peanut butter. Vitamins, green tea shots, all that stuff. Also, it beats going to the grocery store.
I like Matt as a guest, but I knew that there was going to be like a pro and con to having like the New Yorker guy on the show, and I think we just found it out. Like, it's a very weird diet, and then he's like taking us back to like Greek mythology, and like Zeus didn't want people to have Google glasses. It's a good guest. Gina, are you an Amazon Prime, Gina?
I am.
What do you have on Subscribe and Save?
I don't actually use Subscribe and Save that much.
Don't? Oh, you got to get down with Subscribe and Save.
I don't. I buy in bulk, and then I buy in bulk again.
Subscribe and Save is great because like I found like that perfect like moisturizer, and I got like the hair gel, and I just like because this is the way guys operate.
It just magically appears.
Yeah, and the way a guy operates, as Matt will tell you, is you find something you like and you buy it for 10 years or the rest of your life. Pretty much, right? So he gets his certain type of peanut butter, and that's locked. That's not going to change that.
Yep.
It's locked.
Unless Amazon
Gillette
doesn't
razor,
sell it anymore.
Edge gel, like there's like 20 types of Edge gel. I've used one for a decade, and I am never going to change that. Like that's it. That's my Edge gel. I'm done. I move on with my life. Same shirts.
Yeah.
Same underwear. Subscribe and Save. Done. All right. Next story.
All right. So we know we've been hearing that Fab is raising another round at a valuation of $1 billion.
Oh God, I could have invested at a $10 million valuation.
Just wait. So they raised already a number of rounds. The Series D was in November, 15 million. They had 105 million Series C in July of last summer, 40 million Series B in December of 2011. I mean, they've got great investors, as you know, Andreessen Horowitz, First Round, Softtech, Menlo Ventures, Ashton Kutcher, Kevin Rose, SV Angel. They've also got some interesting media companies, Washington Post, The Times of India. They have 12 million global users, they've reported, about 1 million in the UK. They have huge and growing international sales. Now, there's been some talk about big news they're going to release next week. Speculation is that it's going to be about them making more of their own products under their own
All right,
label.
Play the clip. Let's play the clip.
What we do every day is very different than doing a daily deal site or kind of a discounter site. We are building relationships, and we build a platform. We built a platform that didn't exist before that brings together, thousands and thousands of designers, people who make stuff, and the people who are, eager to kind of define and discover their products.
Yeah, so he was a great guest, and they got a big vision there.
Yes, and you talked to him a lot in that interview about stores.
Yes, and he gave it up on that interview. He's like, yeah, we would do something if it was interesting.
He said he was very curious.
Yeah, of course, right. So curious is like, that's like when Tim Cook is like, yeah, we're going to follow the string where it takes us with TV, and we're going to follow the string, and then something's going to emerge at the other end. What are your thoughts, Gina? Are you a big fan of Fab, and you think that this, like, starting as an online retailer and then going into the real world, this is going to be the emergence of these new brands is like 90% click and 10% mortar?
Absolutely. And I think I think you're seeing this actually in a really interesting way with kids brands.
Oh, really?
You're starting to actually see, you're seeing the big companies, the Disneys of the world, Nickelodeons of the world, starting to actually experiment with and launch their kids brands and kids characters on iPad apps and tablet apps, and then moving that into the larger physical world franchises. And,
it's like Where's My Water, right?
Yep. So when you look at that trend, when you look at the fact that, you can just get so much more growth and scale, especially global growth and scale from an online presence, and Fab, I think, is a phenomenal example of that. It seems like you're then going to punctuate the online with physical presence as needed. But I definitely, respect and appreciate their ambition and the fact that they are absolutely going for it. And I think that that's actually really cool, especially when you look at the fact that there are very few e-commerce brands that are worth over $1 billion.
It's a hard space.
It's hard space.
Yeah.
And I think that those guys, one of the things I really respect from an entrepreneur's perspective is the fact that they embrace adapting, I should say. And they really embrace it. So, the fact that they seek to be as transparent as possible, but also, continue to evolve and continue to adapt, I think is a real testament to that team.
Yeah, what do you think, Matt? I mean, Fab's obviously based in New York. They're tearing it up there, and he's a colossal entrepreneur. I mean, is this the next target, Matt, you think?
Well, I mean, the next target, I feel like the more app thing would be the next Amazon, right? Like when you're thinking about that kind of stuff. But I find that like the idea of click and mortar is sort of like really interesting, because you have seen like a lot of online brands decide they need to open up showrooms, like Warby Parker. They were online only. Now they're opening up a couple stores. Like Google supposedly is opening up a store after trying to sell everything online. Is there going to be a Google store? I
didn't know that they had made that commitment. That rumor's out.
There was a rumor that they were going to do that store, which is pretty fascinating, because they've tried to, otherwise, like when they first started selling the Nexus, right? Like they were trying to have sort of an interesting experiment about upending the traditional carrier phone model, and they were trying to do that entirely using the internet. And then you had like Microsoft was selling stuff online, and then now they obviously have the Microsoft stores. So seeing people kind of play with that space, because you've had traditionally the traditional brick and mortar places have been really bad at online. Like if you think about Best Buy completely blowing orders for Christmas Eve, like people had ordered stuff on Black Friday, it wasn't going to come until Christmas. So I think there's something to retailers that are flexible and are able to do both. Maybe it's a limited brick and mortar presence, being able to do that well on top of online commerce, because I'm going to go to wherever it's most convenient. Sometimes it's going to the store, and sometimes that's, getting it online.
And this experiential stuff is really the key. I mean, when you go to Disneyland, you're going to see this guy Swampy, from Where's My Water, which people didn't, I think, even realize this. I saw Where's My Water. I thought it was by Rovio and Angry Birds, because it was obviously a ripoff, like such a direct ripoff of their character-based, physics-based gaming. And I was like, wait a second, this is a physics-based iPhone game by Disney with a character. Now they have a TV show, supposedly, that they're going to be doing with Swampy. And obviously, you're going to have Swampy will be at Disneyland.
Well, because the kids are on iPads, right?
Yeah.
That's where they're going to discover new things.
Absolutely. I mean, and then like I was at the, what's that evil company that makes the pod coffee? Nespresso?
Keurig?
No,
Keurig.
yeah, Keurig or Nespresso.
Yeah.
So I was at the Nespresso store in San Francisco 2 trips ago, and it's like you go there and they just have like a wall of those like pods, and you buy your pods, but you sit there and it's like this great experience. It's beautiful, and it's like you're getting indoctrinated into pod culture. Like they're trying to get you to believe that these pods are good when really they're destroying the planet with pods. And then I was at WeWork, and there's a third party that makes a reusable pod for the Keurig.
Yep.
And you can put it in your wash or whatever. You can wash it out, but you can buy your own like high-end gourmet coffee, and put it in there, and use a Keurig system. It's the greatest hack ever. It's a total kick to the nuts of Keurig and Nespresso, because they sell their machines below cost to make it back on the razor blade pods that destroy the environment. And now somebody's coming like, yeah, sure, you want to give away your, coffee machine at a loss? Great, buy this $10 little insert, and people can buy their coffee and absolutely hack the system. You have it, Matt?
No, I'm totally don't use a Keurig.
You're like a
Not at
coffee.
all.
Wait, no, he's a coffee snob. Let me hear. What do you use? You're a blue bottle guy. Take us through it, Matt.
Well, it sort of depends. Right now, like I've been typically either use a Kalita Wave system or a Hario V60.
Oh, you are the Hario V60?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hario V60 is amazing.
You have no idea what he's
I have
talking
no
about.
idea what he just said. Oh, I'm on a Hario V60. He reminds me of Max Levchin. Like, I was like, Max was like, oh yeah, he's like talking about coffee. He's like a big coffee snob. But I'm gonna ask him like, hey, what should I get from home? He sends me like a list of things. It's like $8,000 in coffee.
Of course.
I'm like
$8,000.
He's like, oh, you gotta have a burr grinder from Italy and.
No, I tell you to get a grinder and then a clever coffee dripper. You literally you throw in the coffee, you throw in water, you let it sit for 4 minutes, and you just pop it on top of your cup, and then it's done.
Clever coffee dripper.
Yep.
Oh, I know
Super
this stuff.
easy.
This is like like the stuff you use at like a Blue Bottle does, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Blue Bottle uses it, but I know a few people do. Gimme Coffee in New York uses it. A few other people.
So it's $22 for a
use
piece
the
of plastic. Yeah. Right. But anyway, it's not that expensive. And so you just put it in there. And you have to use a filter, or it's the filter itself?
You have to use filters, but they're cheap. Like you can use the Melita filters, but like.
Oh, you use the Melita? Yeah, I'm on the Melita too. Yeah. What do you use? The Melita number 4 or number 3?
I think for those you need a number 4. So
I'm fucking with you, Matt. I don't have a Melita number 4 or number 3. Next story. I just love that Matt is like so.
All right.
He's like a caricature of a New Yorker writer. It's great.
All right, so
He's on the Melita number 4.
Exit round.
This is the greatest.
I know
this
is something you're interested in. So this is, as you called it, the Ashley Madison for startups.
So genius.
So the whole idea is to focus on acqui-hires. So there's a team that's struggling. They need to find a buyer fast. You can use Exitround. They're calling it a discrete marketplace for early stage companies to explore acquisitions. The founder is Jacob Mullins, a senior associate at Shasta Ventures, and he says the site will filter applicants by only accepting companies who previously raised money from professional investors or established incubators.
Are you running out of runway?
So I'm just curious, is this because of the Series A crunch? And is this going to be
to save face
more
with
or
a great
less
exit?
successful than AngelList?
And we have the site for you, Exitround. Don't deny yourself a happy landing. It really is literally as Ashley Madison. Like, so I sign up for this thing. Here's the punchline, Gina. I sign up for this, and I tweet like, "Hey, this is a great idea," because I'm looking to acqui-hire, like to get, I need like another 10 developers for Inside, and so I'm like, maybe I can acqui-hire something, right? Acqui-hire. I gotta pronounce it correct. It's like Aquaman, acqui-hire, Aquavelva, and. So I tweet that I'm going to do it. The guy sets me up. He's like, "There's 4 companies in here." They sort of blind out the names. Oh, it's a pretty cool process. I get an email. Hey, Jason, it's your friend X from another city, not Los Angeles, but from another city. He's like, I know you invested in our company and you're going on Exitround. I haven't had a chance to email you, but you may see our profile on there.
Oh.
And I was about to email you that we're out of money and, we've got this much runway left. It's like a company not in San Francisco or LA, but he's like, totally cool dude. I'll help you any way I can. It's not a fit acqui-hire wise, but that's pretty funny. What do you think of that, Gina? What's the word on the street? Lots of companies out there hitting the wall, right?
Yeah. And I think that, I love the fact that we are continuing to try to create a programmatic approach to everything. So I think that there's something of value there. I just wonder how many different, if an existing platform like an AngelList can provide a better, more effective way of finding the right outcomes.
Yeah.
Having something that, you would put your company on because of it. I really wonder. I know it's discreet and I know that smart people are involved, but I do wonder if you've essentially just given yourself a death sentence at that point.
Yeah, if you do put yourself on it, it's like, it's kind of
giving up.
It's a little bit of like showing your cards, like we're out, and then your negotiating position is like 0.
Right.
But it does feel like it's a feature of AngelList. It'd be like a really good feature for AngelList. And I gotta be honest, like I think that having the full lifespan of a company and being honest about like, hey, let's quickly move on to the next thing. What I like about this is if I, as an angel investor, or like if I was a VC, I'm on Exitround, just looking for the team and saying, hey, it didn't work. Shut your company down, and we'll give the previous investors 5% in this new company, and we'll take the team. Like we'll give them idiot insurance, 5% common in the team. So it's almost like, don't go to Y Combinator. You were the Y Combinator. You learned together on this $500,000 in angel investment. We recognize that 500,000 was invested by those people. We're going to give them the dummy insurance, the 5%, and the new company in common, and you're all good. And everybody, it's like, for me, if I had something in my portfolio that's going to die and I'm going to get zero, I'd rather have 5% common in the next thing. And it seems like a really great way to get people off of a bad idea and onto one that works. And I talked to 2 companies in my little acquihire thing, and it's like, my God, these 2 companies are brilliant, hardworking. They made a great product, and the product didn't work in the market in both cases.
And so it's time to move on.
Time to move on. But the thing is, I heard Zuckerberg, like, it's like his whole strategy, and then he's just like, oh, well, screw your investors. You don't need to give them anything. Just come work here. I'll give you guys load you all of stock options. And that's like his strategy. But I think Marisa is doing this exactly right. I mean, she's done like a half dozen acquisitions for 20 million each, 30 million each. She's making sure that the investors get their money back, maybe times 2. So she's got a lot of goodwill she's building. People are going to bring her companies because they know they're not going to get a donut. They're going to get a 2 or 3x. And Zuckerberg's going to screw the investors. So if I'm an investor in something, I'm like, oh, I'm going to call Marisa and send her the company because she's going to treat them with respect and the investors with respect, and Zuckerberg's going to try to ram and jam everybody.
Or you have something like Marco Arment selling Instapaper to BetaWorks because he knew he wanted somebody to take care of it and not let it die. Yeah, exactly. Well, that was with Upcoming getting killed. What do you think, Matt? What do you think of this sort of like graceful exits and the job Marissa's doing with acquisitions?
Well, I question like how much they're getting out of acquisitions. Is that like, what are they really buying when they're spending that amount of money in acquisitions? Because you think of the sort of the Sumley acquisition as sort of the quintessential why was this acquired for this amount of money startup.
Well, break it down for me. $30 million is too much. Why?
Well, I mean, there was sort of a lot of questions about like what exactly they were buying because they had licensed part of the technology from SRI, and they because it had that 17-year-old founder, and there were just sort of some questions about like what was the value of what it is they were purchasing.
Yeah, that actually was very true. In the case of that acquisition, they were leveraging another person's API. The front end was built by a third-party development shop.
What were they actually buying?
And they gave $30 million to somebody for a 2-year,
I think.
And he's got 6 months left in high school. So if that one,
and he's based in London.
If Yahoo doesn't work out, that'll be the moment that they say like, oh my God, Marisa totally screwed up. If Yahoo does work out, they'll be like, oh, she was brilliant. She placed 20 bets. Like success basically determines if it was a good idea or not.
Yeah, I like the idea of something that prunes companies that aren't working. Like I'm definitely sort of pro macro efficiency, and that's why I think in some ways when people are talking about a crunch on capital, well, if one effect is that we're kind of cutting out the bottom 20% of startups and startup ideas, like there's some value to doing that, to cutting out sort of the bottom 20% or so.
Gina, what do you think of the job Marissa's done so far with the acquisitions?
I want to believe that there is something about Sumley that we don't know or understand because on the surface it looks irrational. And beyond that, I think she's doing a great job. And I think when I certainly look at her focus on mobile and having a strong point of view, I think what's been so interesting and cool from my perspective is the fact that we are no longer having that conversation of what is Yahoo. At least we know that there is a focus on mobile, there is a focus on personalization, there is a focus to it.
Yeah.
And I think she's done a really nice job, which is what you want to do as you go into a situation like that of identifying talent and bringing it on board. And bringing people on board that have it. But the Sumley thing, the only thing that made sense, I read it, and I don't know how accurate this was, but that it was also an acquisition that was happening as a part of some other kind of technology that I didn't fully understand, but it was the first thing I read that I'm like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense to me.
Yeah, we don't have full information.
Yeah, and I'd hate for people to get the sense that that's a standard deal, and because it's just not.
Right. Yeah, I think the Stamped, they bought that mobile app maker Stamped, which was like, these are your favorite things, kind of stamped them as my favorite. Like that was a savvy purchase because it was a team that had built a really good product that just, consumer is so hard. I mean, your chances of hitting something in consumer is like, what, 1 in 100, like truly breaking out. So, but if you built something that's great, the top 20%, Yeah, they have a 5% chance of breaking out. The other 95% don't. It's like that was a really smart purchase, and there's complete clarity as to what they stand for. They're a content company. They do personalized content, and they closed stuff this week, right? Or was that last week that they closed upcoming?
Yeah,
and
they
other stuff?
closed. They were sunsetting a bunch of stuff.
So now, you can see all the playbook from Google is now the Yahoo playbook. We're sunsetting things that don't work. We're making acqui-hire talent acquisitions. We're getting clarity as to where we're going to make money. But where is the YouTube competitor? That's my question.
Well, and at what
that
point,
to me is the number one thing she needs to do is have a viable YouTube video competitor.
But at what point does the Google playbook not work for Yahoo?
Well, I don't think that I think that playbook is...
That playbook would work for anybody if they're in that position?
I think so. I think if you have the technology she has, you have the footprint of user... If you have just the user footprint of Yahoo and you apply Google, Googleonomics to it, and the Google management playbook to that base of users, you could just have unlimited gains. Because Yahoo is so inefficient and so poor at building products. Like, they just made I read this week they made the fantasy sports product faster. Just that one piece of the playbook, which she was a big part of at Google, was just make everything faster. Make everything faster makes everything grow. So they could get growth just by doing the Google playbook of make it faster.
To the YouTube point, they did just bring over the entire SNL archive to Yahoo.
They did?
So, yeah.
She bought the rights to the SNL archive? Wow.
Yeah, I think that was announced yesterday.
And so wait a second. If they get the SNL archive, did they have to pay for that? Or is that a revenue sharing deal? Because what I heard, and I have slight inside knowledge, is they don't want to pay for original content anymore. They are paying for original content pre-Marisa. Post-Marisa, she just wants to license stuff and split revenue, which is kind of a bummer for people in the content business. Like, oh, we have Amazon and Hulu and other folks paying to make original content, and she's holding the Google line of actually, no, Google with YouTube is paying for content, but now they're getting back out of paying for content from the reports that are out there. So I kind of feel like it's a step backwards, but they really need to have a full-on Google competitor, and this is probably at the start of it. I think what they'll do is they'll put SNL in, and they'll lose money on the SNL deal with a guarantee, but then they'll let you upload your own videos around it and subscribe to videos and channels, and they will rip off YouTube pixel by pixel is my prediction. Do you think that's a good move for them, Gina, is to launch a YouTube competitor coexister?
I think they have to figure out what they're going to do on video, and it's not Yahoo Video. It's just not.
Yeah.
And the other piece that I think is really interesting is that they're still pretty much nowhere from a social perspective. And I think that when you look at, again, the focus on mobile makes sense, and mobile content makes sense. But if that's not going into how people are sharing, how this stuff is working that way, it's going to be challenging.
All right, let's do the CISPA story and get the heck out of here.
All right, so the Cyber Sharing and Protection Act. Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection.
I don't understand how they name these things. It's like
everybody likes an acronym.
They don't kill kittens and protect the Internet Act. The snuggle with bulldog puppies, and it's like always something like they name it so sinisterly. Keep going.
It doesn't sound as bad as it is.
Yeah.
So the idea behind CISPA is it allows private companies and government to voluntarily share information, in other words, private user data, to prevent and minimize cyber attacks. Now, there are people who say that you need something like this to protect the United States from cyber attacks from China and Iran, for instance. Usual suspects are against this, the ACLU, Electronic Frontier Foundation.
But Google didn't take a position, did they? They were silent.
Yeah. So there's, it's the companies like Google and Facebook that would theoretically be sharing the information with the government.
But what information is being shared? Are they sharing, like, my account, my direct messages on Twitter, my email? Like, that's what I couldn't figure out when I sort of drilled down into this. Add more language requiring data to be anonymous from government.
Right.
Bonus.
So that was the sticking issue, is that we agree at some level that this is a good idea, but we don't want you to give everybody's information to the government, full on without any kind of idea what we're giving them. Why wouldn't we just do
warrants and stuff like that? Don't we have, can't you go to a judge and get a warrant? I don't like this wholesale, giving of information. It's just very scary. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I think there's a reason people backed away, and the big criticism of it is that there weren't enough privacy protections in there, which is why the Senate's gone back to sort of reformulate their own version. And it's why the White House has indicated that they would veto it if it had come up for signing. And it seems like it has pretty much died in the water in the Senate, I think was the last thing I had seen, just because they wanted more privacy protections in there, and they weren't there. So I mean, and this is the second time they've tried to push it through, and it looks like it's the second time that it will fail to go through.
It is really interesting because I think Obama's a bit of a hawk, and he was like the guy who was going to shut down Guantanamo, and things were going to get like a little back. We have a little normalcy, and now it's like, no, it's not going to be normal anymore. We're going to just keep putting, I mean, at least we got rid of torture, but it's not like Guantanamo.
We have drones,
and now the drone issue is, I don't know. You trust the government with all this stuff, Gina?
No. I mean, and I think the challenge is that when you just look at what seems like rational, good legislation that reasonable people can agree on, and the fact that we can't get that done, I have a low degree of confidence that legislation for things as sophisticated as this are going to make any kind of sense whatsoever, and that we're going to get what we want out of it, which is protection, at the same time as protecting people's rights. So I look at it, and I have a low degree of trust and confidence that sophisticated legislation or sophisticated issues like cyber terrorism and cyber intelligence is well handled, given just how ridiculously poorly handled things that make a lot more rational sense.
It is amazing. Like, they can't seem to get this sequester worked out. They can't get Obamacare worked out.
Well, now all these flights being delayed because of the furloughs for
I was on a flight yesterday, and it's just
control?
like, oh yeah, we're basically going to delay everybody's flight to make a point. It's like, really, Obama's like, you're going to, I mean, it's almost like they're doing this like, okay, now everybody's going to get penalized to make our point because we have a dysfunctional, representation. And so like each side is trying to like make the other side look worse. It's complete gridlock, which in a way is good because they can't get a law like this through, but it's bad because we can't get the, important stuff through, like
Right.
balancing the budget or,
And they just keep pushing that stuff back every few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't decide if this is good or bad.
Let's get that stuff right.
Yeah.
Well,
Get that stuff right first.
You did have all the living presidents together this week to, celebrate the
cool.
opening of the George W. Bush Library.
Oh, really?
Yes, they all
Really?
had.
Does it have,
they had a love fest.
all the books he's read, both of them?
Well,
Nancy Drew and The Catcher in the Rye. He's read 2 books.
He did.
Max.
I heard an interview with Laura, and she said that none of George's paintings were going to be hanging there. Fortunately.
Oh my God, those things. See, this is why I love Anonymous. It's like Anonymous is like, George Bush is a douche. We're gonna hack his Gmail and get his really bad paintings. Like that, to me, that's like vigilante justice at its best. We have confirmed through his Gmail that he is the lightweight IQ that you thought because he can't draw a dog, or his dog drawings look like they were done by a mental patient. Like literally somebody with one eyeball drew that stuff. What do you think, Matt?
I haven't checked them out.
You're pro-anonymous. You're pro-anonymous doing that kind of stuff, right? You like that pro-anonymous shenanigans.
It sort of depends. Like they've definitely done some interesting things that it's all on a continuum.
I am.
So.
I'm very pro-anonymous
Until they come after you.
No, they're not going to come after me. The chairman of the internet. No, there's no reason to.
Who
I'm the one that
appointed you chairman of the internet, by the way?
I appointed myself for my third
Such
term.
crap.
I know. Because people are like, wait a second, I didn't get to vote. I'm like, it was a landslide anyway. It doesn't matter. Your vote doesn't count. Listen, it's been a great show. Everybody check out Mightybell Gina. Thank you so much for being on the program. She's at Gina B on Twitter. Any plugs, Gina?
Nope.
No plugs. I plugged you already. All right, everybody go check out
Plugged me
Mightybell.
well.
Yeah, go check out at Gina B, and everybody check out Mightybell. Start your own group there and start sharing some education. And Matt Buchanan is Matt Buchanan on Twitter. And check out the New Yorker /tech. Any plugs? You got anything going on, Matt, that we need to know about?
We have the Twitter accounts for the tech section is just @elements, plural.
@elements, plural.
Yep.
That's the name of the blog.
That's it.
Yeah, @elements. And hey, big happy birthday to Kieran Kalia.
Thank you.
What are you, 29 now?
Happy birthday.
Happy
29?
birthday.
Yeah.
29.
Plus or
whatever.
minus 6.
Few
I
here
think,
and
what are you, 35? I don't even know how old you are. 34?
Well, we won't discuss it here.
Okay, right. We'll check our Wikipedia page later. And thank you to my friends at My Turnstone. Thank you to Brandis on the ones and the twos, making the show run smoothly. And thank you to Kyle for writing the show notes. And thank you to Sharefile by Citrix. And
Turnstone.
Turnstone, and thank you to me, the chairman of the internet. There you go. If anybody needs any rulings from the chairman of the internet, all you have to do
hot or cold sake, really?
Any question for the chairman of the internet, you just go at Jason and you just ask me your question, and I will give a ruling. And then if there's any punitive stuff that has to occur, any sentencing, that's handled by Anonymous. So I make the ruling, but just to be clear, Anonymous and 4chan and Reddit, they actually dole out the punishments or the rewards. But I can answer any of those questions.
And you're willing to accept Bitcoin?
I will accept Bitcoin, yes. It'll be a donation to the chairman of the internet. All right. We'll see everybody next week on This Week in Startups. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well done. Good job, Matt. Good job, Gina.
Thanks, guys.